Okay, like myself and many other people, if you're online doing things with these platforms like YouTube, other platform, any platform that's got video ability, live streaming ability, Twitch and these others, Facebook has ability. Most of these social networks have video ability now. I I really don't think anybody who's not doing anything with these platforms, those individuals will meet via technology less narcissists than they would otherwise if they were using their technology, going online with it. You know, whatever you got, a mobile phone, a tablet PC, laptop, desktop PC, however you get online with whatever you got, and forming these accounts, looking at the video abilities of these platforms. No one's going to meet more narcissists doing that than they would otherwise. Yeah, because what they're to do? Beg for attention. They can't get the attention. People will start ignoring them in their person-to-person life. They might try online. People wise up to their narcissistic way. Because word gets around quicker these days. My brother's ex is just a perfect example. Every person she's ever befriended soon learns that uh, they're not worth being around and they try to escape them. What she does is use these people, always using them for her means her own ends, and then try to claim credit for, oh, I got this done, I did this and that. And nobody, it's true that nobody truly succeeds alone, but the narcissist will not give credit for the help they get. They want to take all the credit. This is all they do is take, and chaos and so on. Every single narcissist case I'm looking at, particularly the obvious ones that we know of, right? The fake face filters, hair extensions, and twisting everything. That anything that relates to truth, that's a threat to them, exposing them. They got to twist that into a pretzel and so on. Every single one of them I'm looking at, and there's ones I've not really talked about on this channel, but I'm looking at different cases with police act to get involved with certain individuals doing very criminal things and so on, and always the classic. It was never their fault. Um, when it actually was, they always self-destruct every single time. The biggest problem is their chaos and self-destruction poisons other people around them, because never allow them to control you, because once they controlling you, once you let them in, they find other ways to get in and so on, in your mind and so on. People literally get, some people like a post-traumatic stress disorder. Even when the narcissist is not around, they're kind of looking around in case they're at the beck and call of the narcissist, calling out their name. They probably heard their name being called out in the middle of the night. I guarantee people have had that happen to them. I guarantee. Um, they wake up in the middle of the night and they find nobody's around, but they hear their name being mentioned. That I need your help and they need this and whatever. Yeah, and this is part of the destruction that they are, the self-destruction, while denying they're being so destructive. And again, I pointed out in a previous video, that's clear. Is why is it? Why is the self-destruction so? Why does it get worse and worse and worse? Because they're not maintaining anything really related to who they could be genuinely, with the real aspects of what they really have inside. They want to just that doesn't exist. They're ignoring that. ironic when they hate being ignored. What they want you to buy into, and they buy into, is the fantasy image of themselves, like they're the most important person in anybody's world. They're just amazing, right? The worse the inner self gets in like any true aspects of what they've got is ignored more and more and more, and not maintained more and more and more. Therefore, it gets worse and worse and worse. You use it or you lose it, right? Is why they don't tend to think critically about it, logically and all that, because you use that or you lose it. So it's still, instead, it's a creative fantasy of superiority. So I think the key thing to learn is anybody who suspects someone's a narcissist, the very first thing you need to do is make sure you're severing ties of any ability for them to control you. Don't do it. Don't allow them in. Particularly if they're trying to control like financial aspects of your life, perhaps whatever it might be. Just don't do it, because all you're going to be is a slave to that individual. You're going to lose your identity. You're going to forget who you are. In some cases, what I'm looking at. And I've been reading up here and there, and I've seen people like this, but none more so than actually online. And again, I think that is going to be true for anybody applying their whatever they do in video form to these platforms that have these video form ability, because it's a narcissist who have discovered, oh, so and so doesn't want anything to do with me anymore, and yeah, they sever all ties and they move on, leave the narcissist behind. But online, it's a honeypot for narcissists and dysfunctional people, because it's a great platform to pretend to be somebody you're not, particularly newcomers who've never had anything to do with you, particularly if they don't even live in your location, and particularly not even in your own country. And so they try to play these games, bring you in, draw you in, right? And manipulation, and to big them up. Nothing about you. Narcissists don't have friends. They just addicted to that fantasy image, like a drug, definitely. And looking at this as well, it's no surprise to me that they tend to be addicts of things like junk food, perhaps, alcohol, drinking cocktails, maybe mixing it all up, a lot of addictive things, right? Maybe they do a bit of coke, whatever, and that has been true for a particular narcissist that was part of a show, a non sequitur show. That's what it was called, the non sequitur show. And this is definitely true of that individual, and they were incredibly self destructive. They won't stop. That needs to be realized. And your obligation really actually is not to let them control you by any means whatsoever. And other people's obligations who are not really controlled at all, but like to point out the destruction of that, can. What the narcissist will hate the most and obsess over is being ignored. So you can talk about these individuals, refer to them once everybody knows who you're really referring to. It's like the initial interaction. Thank you. Now I got you. I got enough start off to explain, hey, this is why this person does this, it does that. And places where, like for me, I did mention the names of such narcissists will be remembered in their mind, and they will know they're being referred to when I say things like, oh, a typical example is trying to fake it, maybe fake crying and putting a clip in to certain videos, all the cuts, the body language, and the fake hair extensions, lots of makeup sometimes, or even face filters. They're faking and faking because they're creating probably a number of fictional. This one I'm thinking of, the fictional characters that they're so desperately addicted to, they want you to believe in, and each one, they want each aspect that those characters is really something that they want you to believe that they're all blended in to one character. All this effort, all this mental effort putting into that destroys their logical consistency with themselves and the information they're putting out, which is why there's probably say things like they're in touch with so and so via email and all that, and their opposition would say, well, we know you're in touch with insert name, and then it respond saying, no, I'm not, because the context of the one responding saying you're in touch with so and so is related to other contacts that is exposing them and seeing through their fake charade, their fakery. Yeah. How you win against them is the initial addressing and names and all this, so that everybody knows who you're referring to, and then referring to those dysfunctions further down the line. Right? What they hate the most is being ignored. But even more, they're going to hate the most is being ignored, but still, for the other audience, being talked about. This will aggravate them so much because they're obsessed with center of attention, obsessed with deluding themselves that they're important, when in the greater, bigger scheme of things, they're not important at all. The only way we give them any relevance, any individuals, is when the individuals become a victim of them, and that is not. It's never the victim's fault. It can be duped very easily by narcissism, but this is the effort, the mental effort they put into manipulating people is just that. That's all they do. This is why they project a lot as well, thinking that other people are doing the same thing because it's what they would do, right? And while projecting, nothing's getting maintained. This is why they just get worse and worse and worse. Every single narcissist loses. Be careful you don't get dragged down with them and losing as well. I know individuals I'm thinking of are not doing that. They're pointing out the everyone else. Also, but what I've seen is never tell a narcissist to do something out of an appliance of it's wise not to do this thing. Stop doing this thing. Because they're going to do the exact opposite. Keep trying to remind you why, even no matter how absurd the exact opposite is, they're losing their critical thinking in favor of the fictional self. That is always going to win in their fiction, but actually in reality always loses. Never tell them to do something that you want them to do if you didn't want them to continue. In fact, maybe a bit of reverse psychology. Yeah, keep going, keep doing this thing. Maybe if you're going to address them, their names and so on at all, tell them, no, keep doing this thing, and then they won't do it. And that brings them back, perhaps slightly out of their narcissistic tripping journey, but the majority are going to be telling them not to do things anyway, because the majority of sane people don't see sanity in doing something that's not wise to do. But how you destroy a narcissist? Ignoring them, basically. But even more so, more powerful than ignoring, I think, is kind of blocking, in which they're not addressed directly at all, but you can talk directly to people, directly about them. Address them, don't address them directly, but talk about them directly. And how much we learn from the obviousness of self-destruction and so on, and the leaks of body language that come out from through the fakeness, who they really are, those leaks and so on. They don't want you to see those things. Point those things out, but don't address their name. And if you are going to put them on video and in their videos, you really want to aggravate and annoy, because they're going to be destroying themselves anyway, so you may as well help them along the way. Particularly when they're criminal-minded and victimizing individuals. What you want to do is have them be talked about. Don't mention their name, and don't hashtag them. Is that? And I've slated another individual of not hashtagging others, because this is another weird, probably narcissist, but definitely dysfunctional at least. Well, hashtag is what he sees as anyone who's opposing him. He won't hashtag those usernames. And he's never ever gone on camera, but he acts so hardcore and tough. You think he would go on camera if all the fakery of being so tough is a real thing, but he's clearly not. And all he does is smear campaign, name call, put things out of context, lie about people, end up being racist. And of course, you know, that's self-destruction right there. And it can all be pointed out initially. You aggravate them by calling them out, and then onwards ignore them after the fact, but talk about aspects of dysfunction like what they're doing and applying out there in the world. They will look for other victims and other people to big them up. The more you do not mention their names, call them out, or particularly if you don't put their face on camera. Yeah, describe what a video was like and have other people go and look at the clip, even more so while you're doing your video, and say, oh, a link to the clips below, and don't put it in the video. That'll wind up even more, because they're going to think you're talking about me. I didn't even put me in the video or whatever. Not because you're saying, telling and not showing, because you're actually showing because you put the clip below. There's lots of ways to do this. I think these things, thinking about these things, is one way to let them burn. Slow burn. Like I said in Discord earlier, or late yesterday, I think I created a monster. But actually, am I a monster? Or is it that I've been able to pull apart some of these aspects and think, oh, this is the best thing to do, to annoy the fuck out of them, because they deserve to be helped along the way of self-destruction, because they will destroy innocent people out there. This is what they do in order to big themselves up. They don't care about you if you've been a victim of any of these narcissists out there, particularly individuals I'm thinking of because of the internet. You meet these people through the internet, these narcissists. Those individuals have been victimized, having their names blasted out just because of some argument, some disagreement over a Facebook, modding of a Facebook group is one example. Never mentioned, of course, in private chats with people you trust, in your community. Maybe mention the name, this and that, but never allow them to see you addressing them directly. But talk about them and they're going to know they're being talked about because of the information that you started off with and how you're referring. How, like me, the fake face filter, the long hair extensions, the fakery, the silly giggle at the end of the mental gymnastics. You know who I'm referring to when I say that. But did I say the name? Did I mention anybody's name in the previous video? No. It shakes them up like a beer can. Open it, it just splurges everywhere. Right? This is going to annoy the hell out of them. A bit of advice there. Just stop deluding yourself to thinking that they're going to wise up and see the error of their ways. They're narcissists. The error of their ways, no, they could never be so wrong, therefore they must be right. They're amazing, right? That's a cognitive dissonance feeding the narcissism. It's not going to... This is decades of practice down into a self-destructive pattern. Any time, any moment, any brief moment they look at the real self instead of pretending to be this fictional self, in a bit of insight in there, they go, whoa, I'm not dealing with that. Why? Because it got so disgusting and rotted and got so bad that they recoil. This is why they hate themselves. This is why they hate their own company. All right, that needs to be realized. And I feel like the majority of people in the community are only just beginning to get it. So I have shut up and leveled back a bit and think, you need to get it. Certain individuals like this past the point of learning anything brand new. It was pointed out to the individual I'm thinking of, the Canadian Security Service. I forget the acronym mentioned in chat, and they go and refer to that in their live. And now immediately, twice, they got it wrong. Canadian Secret Service, I didn't know there was one. Then it was posted and they said it again. Secret, that wasn't Secret Service, it's Security Service. Sure, I'm sure that Canada has a Secret Service. You know, the UK has a Secret Service. Every country, developed countries, tend to have a Secret Service. They got it wrong twice because they're not seeing the world via what it actually is. It's all fiction. It's all twisted around and interpreted in a way that supports the delusions of superiority. Yeah. You get it, perhaps, when I say this individual is past the point of learning anything new, because everything is twisted and interpreted and colored and changed via supporting the fiction of what they want you to believe they are. So much so they don't even know they're doing it. They're reading something in front of them. They can read, but they don't interpret to what the information actually is. They misinterpret it and twist and convolute the information to support the fictional character. Peace out. I'm gonna head off to work. Take care. Look forward to doing another video soon. Slow burn.